Greetings, friends and family. Greetings to you wherever you may be. We have California, New York, Chicago, Guatemala, Belize. We can't miss Belize. St. Vincent in the house today. This evening, we have two energetic young individuals, wise individuals. One thing at the Garifuna Nation, we have a mixture of young and old, enthusiastic individuals who are working hard ceaselessly to ensure that we become better people, better citizens, better individuals in our community. This evening, we have two guests, special guests, our St. Vincentians brother and sister. I will allow my sister Lena, who is my co-host this evening, to introduce our first guest. But before we do that, Lena, we want to give our audience a recapitulation of what we talked about last week. Just a brief recap to get them up to par, and then we go straight into today's discussion. I'll take it on to you.
Garifuna Nation, its goals, its purpose, and everything. Last week, we had a great program and we were talking about Garifuna Nation. What is Garifuna Nation? Where and how it's working? Who is part of it? And how others can become part of Garifuna Nation too. So we talked the most about what is the purpose? Why do we exist as an organization? How do we represent and how do we advocate for our people? So it is wonderful that we have this space, and we're going to be having it from Sunday to Sunday. So we're inviting you to take part and to learn more about the Garifuna Nation, because Garifuna Nation is about you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that brief recapitulation, Lena, that is. I want to introduce our first guest, and I have to say, over the past couple of months, particularly the show that I've been hosting, called Bangrega Unmuted, we mostly get, for some reason, a lot of males, right? Men are usually the ones who would step up. I don't know for St. Vincent and other places, but when it comes to these podcasts, today we have a very special guest. She's a sister, Garifuna sister, Relicia Andrews. She is a diplomat. She's into education. This is a strong woman. I could go and read her bio, but I want her to give us a brief introduction of herself, so we could get it from the horse's mouth. Relicia.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for putting me on the spot there. As you have heard, my name is Relicia Andrews. I'm from the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Currently, I'm an independent researcher. I just completed my undergraduate degree in Caribbean Cultural Studies as the first graduate within that program from the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill campus. My work involves, of course, Garifuna culture, religions and spiritualities, as well as religions and spiritualities within the larger Caribbean region, so Vodou, Ifa, Santeria, and part of my work also includes motherism or feminism. So it has a lot to do with advocacy, but one of my beloved projects, the Portrait Project, which is a research website collective that I recently created, has to do with using the arts as a means of reparative justice. And to do that, I've been linking all the initiatives that I've been working on and figuring out how the art can heal, how the art can revive, how the art can advocate, and how the arts can actually bring people together. And with that, I'm here with my colleague Jacob Mars tonight, who is a big part of that process. And I hope that he can give a bit more on the projects that he's been working on individually and also collectively as well.
Very good. Thank you, Relicia. And now I will ask my dearest sister, Lena, to introduce our next guest.
Well, we would like to welcome our brother Jacob. Jacob, I think I pronounced it well. It is an opportunity for us to meet you, to know about his projects also, his trajectory in transforming the Garifuna people's lives in St. Vincent. And I'm excited to have him in this space so he could share with us his person, he could share his experience and also his project in St. Vincent. We'd like to welcome you, Jacob, to Garifuna Nation Talk.
Thank you very much. And you are indeed correct with my pronunciation. I usually, as a point of introduction, I have a little tally that I do in terms of the different pronunciations of my name and how close they were or how far apart. And they were pretty close. Really very close, but I appreciate that. Greetings everyone, greetings. I'm elated to be here to share space, and to communion and to have conversations surrounding our Garinago identity and the work that we must do going forward. As Ray said, I also dabble within performance. I am a performance artist. I direct and perform within the theater. I also dabble and I dare say I am a leader of community. I love to describe myself as a seed of the ancient Baobab that is providing trees for shelter. And I think that within that, as our conversation go on, you would see how for me in reclaiming space and memory, I'm all about providing planted seeds and providing trees for shelter so that more trees could grow. In terms of my academic interests, I have a Bachelor of Arts in Culture and Creative Industries, where I would have concentrated specifically in cultural policy and international relations, because I do believe in cultural diplomacy. And I know for a fact that it is through the arts that we can really and truly have that Sankofa where we are able to talk truth to power, but also reclaim our identity and our traditions. And that is how I have been sort of navigating. In terms of my interest, I am interested in decolonial thought and theory and how essentially as young people we could identify and recenter and ground ourselves in the traditions that are ours and also use them as tools for the reconstruction of the society and ourselves. Right, that's me in a nutshell. I trust that I was able to do it justice.
Very good. Thank you, JKL. Lena, JKL didn't commend me on pronouncing his name, so I'm assuming I got it a tad bit wrong.
No, I would not say that, I would not say that. I was actually gathering some notes as we were going along, so I did not pay attention at that particular point, if I'm being honest. But then to hear it now, you are pretty close as well. So
Okay, pretty close as well will work.
yes,
thank, thank you, my brother. This evening we're gonna talk about reconnecting the roots. All right, Garifuna youth bringing past and future. Reconnecting the roots, Garifuna youth bringing past and future. Before we expound on the topic for today, let me ask my dear co-host Lena, what do you get from that when you hear reconnecting our roots? Garifuna youth bringing past and future. What do you get from that?
What I get from that is that we are reclaiming who we are, our identity, and we want the youth to know who we are. We want them to really get the essence of their own identity. And that has to do with the history, the background, right? Our customs, about our ancestors, the way they thought, the way they did things, and the way and what they inherited us, the legacy that we got from them. That's what I get from it. So the youth need to know who they are through all the information and all the essence that we already have, and they need to know that, and not only in knowledge but also in action.
Very good. Let's go to Sister Relicia. Give me your thoughts on the theme, the topic for today.
Well, in looking at this, I would say that it's a matter of reclaiming ancestral memory and preserving our culture. while also addressing the injustices that we've seen in our communities. So whether that has to do with land displacement, human rights violations, securing proper waterways for people in coastal areas, such as in regions like Belize and Honduras, reparations in the form of lands in Bali, so that we have been advocating for years, and figuring out how we can bridge the perceived gap between the elders within our community and people of our generation to collectively advocate for the things that we want to see corrected in our societies. And this is just highlighting the importance of youths in revitalizing Garifuna identity and strengthening those intergenerational ties to truly form a collective.
That's beautifully said. And before we go on to my brother Jekyll, um, if I would comment on this from an individual living here in Belize, as an indigenous person, a Garifuna person, reconnecting the roots, Garifuna youth bringing past and future. It's a topic, and I want to give both of you credit, Relicia and Jekyll, for proposing these topics. And this one stood out to me because we're living in very challenging times. And here in Belize and many parts of the world, but in talking about the Garifuna people, I think personally one of our biggest problem or struggle is a psychological one, identity crisis. Some of us, we don't even refer to ourselves as Garifuna. Some of us, it's just about the perks of being Garifuna. So there is so much to be said about this topic, but as we progress in this discussion, I know we're going to peel some layers and get deeper into it. Let me pause for a bit and go to my brother Jekyll. What's your thoughts on this?
For me, I think that a necessary point of departure or a starting point in unpacking or having any conversation around this idea of reconnecting the roots, essentially, we must first start by understanding and recognizing that reconnecting is a multi-layered and multifaceted process, that it requires work on different sectors within our society and different strands in different spaces and at different level or different positions on what I like to call the battlefield. Understanding that that process is ongoing, it is evolving, it is one that is dynamic in nature. So it's not something, there's not one way of doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that for me is important and starting the conversation there. Um, but all things being equal, we see and we understand that there is indeed um, a cruciality in terms of this linkage or dialogue between past and future, between elders and youngsters, in terms of understanding that it is this continuum, this thing that we must build on, build on foundations laid before us, build on the wisdom of those before us, but also now chart new paths in moving forward within this contemporary world in terms of how are we going to continue to work within the realities of the contemporary nuances with which we live. So for me, I start there as a point of departure.
Sister Lena, thank you, my brother. Sister Lena.
I think part of our challenge is also to be able to share our stories. Um, it could be in written form, but for us, it's also very important that it be oral. In that way, we could take advantage of the older people, right, to bring the stories to the table through the arts, like Rhodesia was saying. So we'll be able to share with them who we are and tell them how we used to do things, especially what is our minds, our mindset of how we live. Because one of the things I love about my people is we have always lived in peace. We are fighters, and we could
Absolutely.
be rebels sometimes. We're very strong, but always in peace. And that's one thing that I want our youth to know, that they have everything to fight and everything to move forward. We have all the resources, both the tangible and the intangible ones. and that makes us really strong. And as an elder, because I consider myself an elder, I think I want to participate. I want to really express to our youth our traditions, where we come from, and with that, they'll be able to build their future.
Absolutely. Now, I have a question for both Relicia and my brother Jekyll. Give us some perspective as to living in St. Vincent, seeing the culture, seeing Garifuna people. I am absolutely clueless. I've never visited St. Vincent. I plan to. It's at the top of my list. From an outsider, one looking in from the outside, what do I see looking in when it comes to Garifuna and Garifuna Duo? Is the language being taught? Are we speaking the language, the dance? How does that look for someone looking in from the outside?
I think that one of the shocking and somewhat disappointing things, and sorry to start off in this very depressing note, but it is often understood that the Garifuna identity here in St. Vincent is somewhat seasonal. And you would often, I say that because you would often only see a lot of people identifying as Garifuna when it's close to National Heroes Day, which is in March.
Mhm.
And that's when they host all the activities for Joseph Satuye Chatouye, and you have these dances coming out. And it's very difficult to actually identify a single collective grouping where you can point to somebody and say, yes, that is a whole Garifuna collective. And I think Mr. Egbert, when he was planning his trip to St. Vincent last year, he asked me, so what communities can I visit and meet Garifuna people? And I didn't really have a set answer for him because while I could pinpoint communities that represent Garifuna identity and culture more than others, there is not a single community that stays fully established throughout a whole year. So there are activities, for example, in Greg's and Fancy and Oya and Barley, but it has become very difficult to keep the collective together. In addition to that, Garifuna language and culture is not taught in our formal education system at all. Jekyll and I have taught Garifuna language and culture for several summers at the National Public Library. And our students are usually ages, I would say the youngest age group is 5 to perhaps 13. The problem with that is that these students only learn Garifuna language during the summer. When they go back to school, and yes, there is some sharing of language, their sharing of culture with their peers, but this process of teaching is not really sustainable because these children go back to school and they hear about the history of Christopher Columbus and they hear that indigenous people are quote unquote extinct and they hear that Garifuna people are celebrated in solely in March, for example. Or they might hear in passing some issue of reparations, but it has not become a focused topic within Vincentian society. So these plays that we might put on, or these creative activities, these pilgrimages to Bali So, these collectives that we're trying to create are a means of erasing the fact that Garifuna identity seems to just be a side thought in many people's mind. So it has been a journey, and we have been working on it to ensure that our culture is revitalized, to ensure that our culture is seen from every aspect of the island.
That is very interesting, and it's not it's not quite unique when it comes to if we compare Belize. For example, if we talk about Garifuna Settlement Day, though I will say that here in Belize there's a lot of dance, teaching of the language going on. There is teaching of the dances. There's Wanaraga competition. We have quite a lot. However, we do still have a lot of what you're talking about too. When it comes to November 19th, it's really about, being festive. It's finding where the hypest location is when it comes to party and, getting drunk. So, but let me backtrack a bit, right? Let me rewind just a bit and ask you briefly, who are you as a Garifuna? Who is Relicia? Looking at yourself as a Garifuna woman.
I would say that I am liberation. It might be a bit pompous to say that, but that's how I view it. Because in every aspect of myself, I show up as true and as whole as I can possibly be. So even when I was applying for grad school, I noted that, the drop down boxes that they have, are you black, are you white, are you Hispanic, Latino? I wrote in my diversity statement and I said, I represent a group of people that is not even on your diversity index. And that's something that I said confidently. And I show up unapologetically as Garifuna in every space that I turn up in. I might not be wearing the colors 100% of the time, but I wear the spirit.
That is deep. That is deep, and I thank you for that. My brother Jekyll, talk to me. What do you see from as an outsider looking? I'm the one looking in, Saint Vincent. What do I see when it comes to the Garifuna people, the culture, the history, the dance? What's taking place in Saint Vincent?
Ray, you provided me. I had to just let go a sigh of relief because I am here to myself when the question was posed, saying, "Oh my God, I trust that I'm not starting the conversation on a somewhat depressive energy." So I'm like, okay, let me figure out how am I gonna introduce the reality of Garifuna identity and Garinaga culture and Garinaga retention within St. Vincent. For me, I would describe it as a site of much disjuncture and displacement. There are several gaps to be narrowed, several dots to be connected, and really and truly, when we see when we look at the ecosystem of things that are and movements that are trying to retain particular things or lead particular conversations or curate particular spaces. Sometimes we try our best to affirm positive energies in the trollings that we do, but sometimes we're prompted to just say the more things change, the more they remain the same, because the thing seems to be more so curated for particular seasons. So yes, we might have few festivals like the primary school Garifuna Folk Festival, which the Garifuna Heritage Foundation have been ably curating for several years now. We might have pilgrimages coming back St. Vincent and doing journeys to Bali. So and we would have the Garifuna conference and we would have several sporadic conversations around Garifuna retention and language within the schools, being uttered by, let's say, government ministers, or you might see contingents coming in and they're having courtesy calls to particular high public offices, etc. But when we look at the reality of the retention, at the very core, at the psyche, you see that a lot of Vincentians um, from inside do not, or at the very least, right now, consciously understand essentially what is Garinaga identity and the importance that it has with to ourselves and to our society. And most things are around Garifuna here are more so curated. Some are able to sustain longer than others. Some, more rocky. Oftentimes dependent on who the leaders are. When I look at my introduction to Garifuna culture, released it as well, where it was through a summer program that was coordinated by Miss Trish Saint Hill, aided by Miss James Lavelle and Miss Erica Bullock and Miss Erica Zuniga, Miss Christine Vaughan and Miss Georgia Lambie, and for us it was a summer program. So even that, though it did work, we weren't able to continue to certain levels because, it was only on the summer, 4 weeks in, let's say, I think it was July, at the end of July into August, or sometimes the entirety of August, we would have the summer program, where they use the arts to sort of introduce sort particular things. But then as we grew older, and we were now needing more advanced information or next level retention, the program would have stop occurring because of challenges. So, from someone living inside Sometimes I shake my head. I shake my head at a lot of things, but it is that disjunction, that displacement, and that sort of seasonal, periodic, haphazard, siloed conversation surrounding culture and identity, particularly where our Garinago heritage and identity is concerned. It's a lot to be considered, a lot of conversations to have that I fear, not I fear, let me not say I fear, but I am cognizant that many of us may not be ready for those conversations, but nonetheless, we continue to champion them. I would share a brief piece that I wrote as a sort of a prelude to how, as we transition in the conversation. And I wrote last year on July. I said, I, descendant of Chatelier, who trod with ancestral memories of guerrilla warfare, resistance is not new to me. And it was holding space for particular things that I was not able to pivot as a youth leader in terms of accepting that this is the reality, this is what is happening. This is what this space is and the work that I need to do. And for me, I started with a particular consciousness and understanding that it's this consciousness that I now need to now spread. But we will continue that conversation as we continue this
That,
discussion.
that is so interesting. And before I go to my sister Lena, I just want to um, call out the topic again, the title for today's discussion: Reconnecting the Roots, Garifuna Youth Bringing Past and Future. And before we go to you, Sister Lena, a lot has been said, both Relicia, Jekyll, you've said quite a lot. And I want to add to that by saying that how we're feeling now as to what we see, as to what's taking place in St. Vincent in Belize. I wouldn't call it negative, and hence the reason why we're having this discussion. Hence the reason why we're here today. We're we keep evolving, right? There's always going to be something that needs attention that we need to fix. I don't know if I should say, unfortunately, there are so many that we need to fix because even here in Belize, there's so much we need to fix. But Sister Lena, let me get some feedback from you. What's your thoughts? I know there's a lot running through your brain at the moment.
Well, first, I would like to congratulate Jacob for his thoughts and for what he wrote to himself. He says last year, right? And that is very important because that means he's going inside of himself to bring out more of him, right? And that's what we all need to do. And what I would say is that we, as Garifuna people, both young and old, we need to go to our roots, and then we have to bring out our cultural values, and then we are looking for that manifestation of identity. That's what comes out of us, the manifestations. So you say what things are good, what are not so good, what need to be fixed. I think we have a lot of challenges in front of us, and we won't be able to really fix it just by one or two of us. It has to be our community, going through the community lines. Together, we'll be able to put things in place. So working with the youth is great because then we will be able to position those factors that we need to put in place to be able to see what we have, like all the inventory that we have, all both physical, intellectual, and intangible. And it all comes together, like our meeting today is four of us on the table, right? So I feel that with the identity that we have, now what we're looking for is unity and empowerment. If we are united and we are working and we are voicing out what we feel, that is a good starting point to start putting things in place because it has to do with our thinking, our mindset. And once we come united and empowered, and together we walk together to find justice, to find security, and to find solutions to our different challenges. I think that's a great beginning. So what I want to say is that together We are sharing through generation, different generations coming together. We are sharing and walking and reclaiming, and we're going towards the same purpose, the same goal, which is to make ourselves feel in the world. Relisha said something, right? That she said something that Filipino people are not, the people that she represents were not in the list of what the organizations usually have. We are not there, but we're coming there. We are representing ourselves, and we bring in all our essence to the world, and we have a voice. So our voice will be the one that will make the difference, right? And then our essence is within us, and we'll be able to bring everything that we have inside to share and start putting things in place and creating this awareness to everyone around.
Beautifully said. Relicia, I have a question for you. If you had the resources, the power, if you had the people and the access you need to make that one significant change that will make a great impact to reconnect the roots, to bring everything together, at least that moment that will create a ripple effect, what would that be?
I would create a Chateauia Institute in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Wow.
Now, the reason for that is because I've been working with the Garifuna Nation for several years, and we created the Garifuna University Without Walls a couple years ago. And the goal was actually to have that university accredited because we had a bunch of subject matter experts who sacrificed their time and were teaching courses, free online courses in Garifuna language, Garifuna drumming, music, Garifuna marine biology, indigenous land rights and practices. We had lawyers who were coming in, full-time lawyers, and sacrificing their time. And I think that as I hear Miss Lena talk about this unity, the problem that we have currently in St. Vincent and in other regions where our people reside is that we have what I like to call popcorn programs. So, for example, in St. Vincent during the summer, it's when a lot of Garifuna people come to teach dances and music and language and stuff like that. But the problem with that is that you hear about, oh, there's this group in Fancy, and at the same time, there might be this group in Barley, and at the same time, there's this group in Kingstown. And then a couple months you hear that they can't source funding to come back. Could you imagine what would happen if we actually acted collectively and actually worked together instead of having several different programs? Mind you, they're teaching the same thing, teaching the same age groups, teaching the same people, every community that they're going to, but they're doing it separately. So I think that creating a Chateauia Institute would definitely have a ripple effect because it's not like there aren't any people here who are willing to learn. There are. But in creating that institute, it would give us the foundation to actually do the work that we intend to do as a whole, as a collective, rather than working solely. Because when you think about it, segregation was one of the main goals of colonialism. So why are we continuing with this thought process? Why are we segregating ourselves?
Now, when you mention Satuye, just the name, I literally I got some chills because I had a discussion not too long ago with one of our elders, Mrs. the late Dr. Aranda's, Theodore Aranda's wife, Mrs. Aranda, and she passionately said to me, Cyril, where are the Chatouilles? Where are the Alejo Benis? You said quite a lot. I could go on and on and on, but I want to just, in considering the time, I want to give my brother Jekyll the same opportunity to answer the same question. If you had the resources, you had all the power you have, the people, the connection, what would be your first step to reconnect the roots?
I it wouldn't be a bias, but for me, I would completely conceptualize, which we've already sort of done some of the conceptual work before, but I would establish a national performing arts company, equipped with an academy and equipped with a particular model that one fosters conversation. And I think my reason behind that, or rather, I know my reason behind that is essentially driven by this thrust to reclaim. And in reclaiming, we now have to now accept that in reclaiming things, we have to now deconstruct and even the very spaces and forms that we use and the methodologies and movements and models that we use to reclaim, and for me, now I think it is through the arts that we will be able to structure things in a particular way. Because if we assess our practices and our traditions and those modes of resistance, it was always by doing, and I find for me, we have a lot of talking, and most times it is the talking that leads to particular problems because through talking, there's miscommunication and then there are clashing of egos. So it is through the art for me that I would be able to lead particular conversations and construct particular spaces to bring particular people together. And that is what I would do.
Very good, very good. Thank you both. Sister Lena, let me hear from you. Sister Lena, are you with us? You're probably muted.
Yes, I was muted. Yes, if it was up to me, right, to think how to reunite our people, I would think of technology to bring them together in order for them to be able to develop themselves, when we call entrepreneurship. But I like the idea of the Chatouillet Institute because it links together with reclaiming our culture through the arts and then adding what is technology to it. Those three together, and those three aspects would really bring our people together. If we had access to technology to be able to teach each other, to teach our language, to teach our menus, our foods, and our thinking, that would be wonderful.
Relisha, let me hear from you. I meant to ask you, what does that Satuye Institute look like? What does it entail? Give me some particulars.
It would entail creating modules and courses for the people by the people. And with these courses, I don't think that I would be looking at anybody who per se has to have a degree. Because in a lot of these spaces, we tend to overlook the people who have been doing the work within the community, but might not have an actual physical piece of paper to show that work. So all our cultural and creative practitioners in St. Vincent, for example, who have been overlooked continuously, would be at the forefront of that institute. And immediately who comes to mind is Mr. David Darky Williams. David Darky Williams is the forefront of culture and creatives inside of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He is our beloved elder. You ask for information on any art form in St. Vincent, and that man could get it to you immediately. You ask Darky, can you look at this play that I'm directing or that I'm staging and tell me what I'm doing? Do you like it, etc.? Can you look at this dance form? Can you look at this art piece? Can I have your input on this? And I find that a lot of our elders are overlooked simply because they might not have had traditional education, or they might not be recognizing traditional education. So at the forefront of this institute would be decolonizing the way that we teach ourselves. Second to that, I love using the arts as a modality. And that is why Jekyll and I continue to work on several projects, because we recognize that our people don't just learn by writing notes. They don't just learn by watching a video. They learn by doing, by acting, by singing, by dancing, by playing. And the art of play is something that is missing within our education systems, which is why you tend to say that education is not for everybody, because you're not creating inclusive education to begin with. So with the Institute, those are the two core pillars that I see myself enacting.
Beautifully said. Again, our topic for this evening is reconnecting the roots, Garifuna youth bridging past and future.
Right.
Sister Lena, I want to kind of shift gears a bit. And, what I find, this is the Garifuna Nation. And by the way, for those who are tuned in, this is Dumurei, a weekly podcast radio show. Join us every week at 5 p.m. That's Belize time, Central time, every Sunday. This is the Garifuna Nation. Now, I want to share my perspective as to how I see we are fragmented, the Garifuna people. We have Nicaragua, we have St. Vincent, we have Honduras. We have these different pockets, right? In Belize, I think, and I can say a lot more people can say the same. Here in Belize, St. Vincent is vaguely that place somewhere over there. We're not quite connected. This is the closest connection I've had in, I don't know when, right? So this is, I'm not sure if you understand how I feel, but this is special to me. We're not in the same room physically, but just to be able to have this dialogue, this conversation with you, Relicia, to have this conversation with Brother Jacob, to listen to Lena originally from Honduras. It's a beautiful thing. So I am sharing my thoughts, my sentiments to get feedback from all of you as well. So St. Vincent for me is just that place over there. And I know that we have some Garifuna people there. But what is it like? Are they speaking the language? Are they eating the food? Are they dancing punta? Are they dancing hugu, gunjay, paranda? Are they making Garifuna music? It's vague for me. With all that said, what are your sentiments when it comes to Belize? How do you see Belize? What do you know of Belize? Are you connected? Do you have friends? Do you connect with the culture? Let me hear from each of you. This time the floor is open. Any of you may just jump in.
Let me start. I've been in Belize twice. Once when I was a teenager, and then about 6 years ago, I was able to go there. And I feel connected in every way when I went there. I felt free. I feel identified. And it was just like coming together as a family. That's how I felt. And I have no doubt that if I go to St. Vincent, I will feel the same. Why? Because our essence is the same, came from the same place. And therefore, we are connecting. And that was the only reason I mentioned technology. It's because while we have the time to go physically to all those places, technology is allowing us to connect already, right? But once we are in the territory, the actual real manifestations are important. And when we talk about, one of the things that I love to talk about is the fruits. Like when you have a mango, how do you feel? When you have a guava, how do you feel? How do you feel when you get a papaya? So what brings us together? What brings us together? Those are manifestations that are both physical and they're both intangible. So when I mentioned that technology is important as part of the institute that we mentioned earlier, as part of arts, music, and all of that, right? It's because we want to show who we are. We want to show how happy we are. We want to show how we celebrate together. We want to celebrate. We want to be able to see that we can speak the language. We could revive our culture, really. We could go back to know how our ancestors started to build what was their mindset. So I would say that if today I go to Nicaragua and I go to the Garifuna communities, I'm sure I would feel something very special. And if I go to Belize or if I go to Urume, I would embrace what I see.
That's good. I think what I would want you to answer to as well is while you're not in Belize, while you're not in Nicaragua, what's that connection? Is there a connection? And that's it for me. I always hear about St. Vincent. I know about St. Vincent. I read about St. Vincent. My mother has visited St. Vincent on numerous occasions. I have so many Garifuna brothers, sisters who have visited. I haven't. So for me, it's just like some place out there. So I have no connection, um, no real connection, right? So I want to hear from you guys. How do you feel? Do you have a connection with Belize? Do you share the culture? Do you speak Garifuna with other Belizeans? What is that like? We're reconnecting the roots, right? What is that like for each of you?
For me, I would jump in there. I think we have sort of been going in the same pattern in terms of how we speak. So I'm going to change the trajectory a little. For me, I'm taken aback to the first Garinagu Mass that I attended. There, I think we were about 15, age 15 or 16, thereabout at the time. The last Garifuna program had been a Hagarinagu that we had. And there were contingents who were in around National Heroes Day. And I think at the time, collectively, they agreed on having a mass at the Catholic cathedral in town. And I remember as a little child seeing elders crying tears and persons consoling each other, decked out in their Garifuna colors and singing Garifuna songs. Some of the songs I was able to sing
Oh
because
wow.
I was going through the program and I sort of had that, well, what I now know and now understand to be that sacred connection in spirit. That though we might have spoken different languages, though we might have different information and be privy to particular things, because I've never been to Belize. I dare say Belize came to me by way of the program, by way of pilgrimages. And now I now have contact with elders and also young contemporaries like myself on social media, and we would share information and react and interact with each other's projects and share ideas and have conversations, and Belize in my brain or anywhere within the Garifuna diaspora, because we accept that our diaspora isn't limited to one particular place. We continue to be resilient and we continue to create new paths. Um, so for me, I am longing to share space and commune within that space, such as Belize or Honduras or Nicaragua, wherever there is a stronger retention of this identity, this thing that I know is me and I am it, you know. Um, for me, Belize or anywhere in the diaspora for me is just an affirmation. I'm just affirming that one day that part of the journey will be connected and I will be able to experience firsthand a dugu or maybe another mass or sit at the feet of an elder and learn particular spiritual traditions or practices. Because we could read and we read and we read, but a lot of what we need and the tools that we need are not collated in books. They are nestled in the hearts and the minds and the stories and the sacred words and wisdom of our elders and our ancestors. But I accept that the return is happening. This too is the return. This too is connecting dots. This too is igniting something somewhere. Quickly, recently, I traveled to Venezuela as a part of a national contingent. And one of the things for me, though I would say I have bits and pieces of the language, like I could, do basic greetings, particular songs, you know, and what I would always do, I would always, once I see a Belizean flag, automatically I go up to that person like, "Hi, Booty Binafi." you know, I'm like, I just hope that this person identifies as Garifuna and we will be able to connect on somewhere. If I see a Belizean flag or a Nicaraguan flag or whatever, I would take out my flag and just sort of keep it present just to see if that person identifies it and we're able
That's lovely.
to have
That's beautiful.
a conversation, and it has worked. It has worked and it has been working. Um, and I just want to wish for us to understand because Ray spoke about her institute and Miss Montgomery, you spoke about the use of technology, and I spoke about my performing arts company. But in accepting one of the reasons why we seem so disjointed is that we now need to understand that we're all on the same team. We are
Absolutely.
all on the same battle line, just at different levels, different positions in it, and there's no need for all of us to carry the entire vessel by ourselves. We accept that, for example, Garifuna Nation is doing this particular work. I do not need to now go and do that work. I just need to do another piece of work that can complement what the Garifuna
Mhm.
Nation is already doing. And if I see I am doing a particular thing, but this is not my strength, and I see another movement or another brother doing a particular thing that is needed here. We see how we're able to collaborate and move the vessel forward rather than trying to create carry entire vessels by ourselves. You know?
Absolutely. This is the Garifuna Nation Radio Dumurei weekly podcast show every 5 p.m. Central Time. JKL, I got to put you on the spot just for a bit. Both you and Release here. The way I learned Garifuna, I'm still learning, as a matter of fact. I'm not as fluent as I would like to be. The way I learned Garifuna is through songs. My mother used to sing to me. She used to teach me the songs, and I would learn these songs, practice them, and one time I had another elder said to me, "You talk Garifuna like you're singing," right? Because I listen to the songs, I get used to the words. Now you talk about singing. Do you have one favorite song? And just sing me a verse, please. That would be a treat.
Yes.
Um, I would say I don't know if I want to torture you guys with singing right now, but I would say that my favorite song is Tagera Gedua. That is one of the first songs that I learned. And it was the song that our elder Miss Georgette Lambie, she sang the first time she taught us how to make hudut.
Ah,
And I remember her sitting with her legs spread, the Hannah in the middle, the green and ripe boiled plantains, and just pounding. And she's going, Tagera Gedua Wayuna. And we're sitting around in this collective. And then that same song, Tagera, when I first arrived to do my undergraduate in Barbados, usually there's like a cultural display from different islands. And they ask people to go up and present whether it was a song, a dance, a piece of art, something. And I presented that song. And out of the crowds of people came a Mr. Rashid Palacio from Belize. And he said to me, "Where did you learn that? The last time I heard that was from my grandmother. I was a child. How did you learn that song?" And it spiraled into me telling him about the retrieval programs that were being held in St. Vincent and immersing us back into our culture. And then that same Tagera is the song that I heard again at the Garifuna Mass that Jekyll just described in St. Vincent. And then when I did my study abroad in Riverside, Mr. Egbert drove all the way to Riverside, LA, to Riverside, California, to pick me up, to drive me to LA at a
oh
Thanksgiving.
wow. That's a
And
journey.
that
Wow.
Tagera song was one of the first songs that they sang at that mass. And within that space, going back to your question on if Belize or Honduras are in our sites, yes, absolutely. I keep getting messages from Marley and Chase who are in Belize, who are in Honduras, asking me, when are you coming? What's happening with this ticket and stuff like that. And I volunteered for a couple of years with Heritage Education Network Belize, remotely, of course, and all female team of anthropologists and archaeologists who are reviving culture in Belize, and they're doing it through a digital platform. And in connecting cultures, connecting spaces, Belize St. Vincent, I also had my Ia, Dr. Yannick Hume from Barbados, had her join a panel with the Garifuna sisters to speak about Vodou and spirituality and recognizing the connections between those two spiritual realms. So it has been at the forefront. Songs and music is the way that we learned in St. Vincent as well, and the way that we have continued to learn Garifuna culture. Because recognizing that everybody is not going to learn by saying, oh, what is this month and what is that month? What is this date of the year? It's not going to work like that. So I appreciate you bringing up that question.
Well, thank you so much. And you don't expect me to let you loose by not singing part of Tagera. I mean, come on, you gotta give us a sample.
You're gonna make me sing this whole song?
Just the first verse. You gotta give us something. JKL, you're not off the hook just yet as well, my brother.
I'm actually prepared.
Alrighty, let me
Let's go
hear.
to Relicia first. Give us just the first verse.
Atakera gedua wayuna. Atakera gedua wayuna. Ah, you make it wo labo wawete. Arake baby agumari wabo. Arake baby agumari wabo. Arake baby agumari wabo. Walu wahinda ya karina go walade. Walu wahinda ya karina go walade. Waluwahinaya Karinago Holiday.
Oh my gosh, beautiful. Come
Woo!
on, we gotta give her a round of applause. Everybody. Lovely,
Yes.
lovely.
Now that I did it, Jekyll, you're not off the hook, you know.
He's not.
I am aware
Atina.
that I'm not off the hook, so I just prepared myself right away. Um, one of my all-time favorites, and it always resonated with me. And again, as a child, there are particular things that I wasn't cognizant of that I'm now cognizant of now. And I give thanks for those things. But there's a song that goes, Yen Lumuti, and it says, Yen Lumuti Wacholo, Gari na Guadia,
Ah,
Aye,
yeah.
Gari na Guadia. Garinago Agiai. And for me, it empowers me, it grounds me that I accept that I am Garifuna, and wherever I go, I will always be Garifuna. And Garifuna isn't the social constructs, it's the blood that flows through my vein, it's the energies that drive me and the rhythms within my steps. And I remember that always, I remember that always. And for me, as a Garifuna, being someone who identifies as Garifuna descent, rather Garifuna in this space where I suffer from this fear of not doing it right or not doing things right, especially in holding space for the fact that a lot of things have not yet been retained. And my brief introduction through the Garifuna program only led me to particular levels. But in holding space for the song and what it echoes, I understand that the pieces are being connected, and I would learn bits and bits and bits and bits and bits. Because, for example, last year around March, I was privileged to attend a pilgrimage to Valley Soul. And I remember sitting on the boat as we were about to just about a few minutes out, and I started singing Waguchi Bungi. And I remember I saw elder ladies taking out Florida water and stuff like that. I had no idea as to what it was at the time, and I just started singing, and automatically I understand now that I became the chantuel of the journey, because I was just leading all the chants, and there were elders there who were teaching me new ones on the spot, and we sort of maintained that back and forth going down all the way to Valley So. And not cognizant that the main elder that was leading the pilgrimage was sitting right next to me, because she didn't say a word, or maybe I was so engrossed within the process, and bringing forth the energies that I was manifesting, that I wasn't even cognizant that she was sitting there and listening to me. And immediately when we got close to Bali so and was about to get off, she held my hands and she said, "Leave the books for a while and sit at the feet of your elders." And there was another gentleman with her, and he asked me, he said, what you did there, have you ever done it before? And I said, no, outside of my little singing, maybe in a rehearsals, I've never necessarily done such a thing on a large scale. And he said, you have a gift. Not many people are able to do what you did. And I, I don't think I had a particular consciousness as to what he was speaking about. But through understanding and accepting and grounding myself in the words of Yendumuti that I am Garifuna, and once I show up as such, the universe, my ancestors are gonna bring the people and the things and the spaces to me that I need to learn what I need to learn and know what I need to know. And on that pilgrimage, I was able to then um cross with the elders first before anyone else and clear the space. I now learned an aspect of Garifuna rituals of cleansing space. So I hold space for this song and accept that I am Garifuna. And once I show up as such and allow those energies to flow through me and manifest themselves through me, that I am going to be aligned with whom and where and what I need to be aligned.
Beautiful, beautiful, man. This is amazing. Relicia, thank you. Jacob, thank you both. Thank you so much. Um, in some of our meetings with the Garifuna Nation, Sister Lena would occasionally, quite often actually, just start talking Garifuna to us. And we find that very enriching. We laugh with it, but we learn, we appreciate it. So I just want to use this opportunity to encourage all of you, all of those out there listening, watching this live, and those who will be watching in the future as well. This is beautiful. Before we're getting close to the end,
Urubay,
yes, my dear.
busan again na rin mo, ha?
Oh yes, man. Why not? I go ahead. Go ahead.
Jekyll, Relicia, busan tinagyan na rin mo, ha? I also want to sing to you. This song is about women. Women that everybody's talking about, women that have been rejected, even within the community. Women who are going through so much pain, right? And someone made a song for them, and it's called May Guadala Bere. May your strength do not fall. So I want to sing just a little bit, a little bit of it. And it's called May Guadala Bere. And it goes like this. May Guadala Bere. May Guadala Bere, May Guadala Bere, May Guadala. Ibinihan ng nibu, kaya bahinyaru me begito. May Guadala Bere, May Guadala Bere, May Guadala. Even if they take you for a woman that has no value, purpose, do not let your strength down. That's what the song says, and I just love it. It's easy to learn. May Guadala Bere. So as we go through our journey, if we are rowing our boats, right, and as we're walking through all of our challenges, so I tell you, do not lose your strength.
Amazing, amazing, Sister Lina. Thank you so much. This is the Garifuna Nation. Dumurei is the name of this weekly podcast. I want to acknowledge that we have our president online as well. I'm not sure if he's still with us, but Mr. Egbert Ihino, if you are still there, I'm not sure if you want to say a few words. Let us hear your voice. Let us see your face.
Bido. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Well, the future of Garifuna Nation is with the young people. And I'm very proud of the great iterations here, the iterations from the very powerful, knowledgeable, gifted young people here, Alicia and Jekyll, and Sister Lina, our beautiful women are present. Rue, don't feel no way, the women are with us. And I always, when I was younger, as a matter of fact, the word indigenous is relatively new, the word indigenous. But my grandmother always told me I was Garifuna. It doesn't matter where I was eating Chinese food, I was dancing reggae, I was Garifuna. And, I'm not Latin. I heard my grandmother sing Latin songs, but they always refer to themselves as Garifuna. And so, Relicia and Jekyll, I love what you're doing in terms of the emergence of this consciousness. As we emerge with this consciousness, we will confront resistance from the powers that be, just like our ancestors from 1400 years ago. I mean, 1400, in the 1400s when we encountered that Christopher guy, and then the French, and then the British, these powers are still existing. They still exist. So we emerge with new thoughts and new ways of being resilient, and we move forward. So I'm very proud of you, young people. Very proud of Sister Alina here too, pushing us forward with a clear mind and objectives of being Garifuna.
Bandi Sereme Abote, brothers and sisters, all of you present here this evening, I want to thank you so much. We're close to the end of this podcast, but before we close out, I want to give each individual an opportunity just to give your concluding remarks. Let's start with Brother Jekyll.
As an artist, I stay true to that always and reminded me recently that my work is my offering to this world. And I think what I would leave is an offering of art as my part in conclusion. And I trust that the energies that I tapped into when creating is felt and that the work and the way may be clear. And it goes, who am I if not oppressed, if not a mere descendant of the enslaved, doomed almost by my blackness? Who am I if not an inmate in their prison, if not seen through this flawed colonial lens? How then might the seed of the baobab bloom, scattered in this wilderness place? What if I embodied the ancestral memory trapped within this colonized flesh? How might my body move if I give it freedom to trod sacred roads? If I accept that this body is a site of resistance and healing, a bearer, carrier, and keeper of divine wisdom? If I embrace its spiritual mediumship, a vessel for the orishas, lawas, and the ancestral energies that sit at their feet? If I no longer feared their holy father but venerated Mami Water and called on Shango? Who am I if not who and what they tell me I am? If not defined by their definitions of me? And what if I choose no longer to hide my color or live in fear of the second coming of the white man's Messiah? For I am the direct descendant of Chatelier. Guerrilla warfare is etched in my consciousness like the lines in my palms. I am son of mothers and grandmothers who covered their crowns and stored seeds within their pats, who dreamt dreams and had visions, who knelt with lotus and centerpoles. I am the embodiment of their resistance, keeper of their wisdom. I am the sacred road, the healer, the vessel. I am not what they told me to be. I am who I choose to become. So now, instead of running to your cross, I pour libations of rum and water and lay offerings at my altar. Sarame Ashe.
Powerful, powerful, my brother. Bande Sereme Niebo. Thank you very much. Sister Relicia.
I think that I would end by saying there's this piece that I had written as well that is very dear to me because reflecting on it, I recognize that journal entries can become poetry. So I would say I was often asked to cite my indigeneity as though oral traditions, living languages, and embodied knowledge could only exist through Western validation. How do I cite a drum beat? How do I cite the sound of my elders' footsteps patting on sand? With this journey, my purpose is to curate work that 11-year-old me would have been able to reference using all acts of empowerment. I have witnessed all forms of fragility, gender biases in the cultural and creative economy that has remained unactualized, especially as a lack of quote unquote qualified, quote unquote educated researchers. Yet I see its boundless potential. My purpose is to cultivate to grow, to set roots, to amplify the voices of the unseen and unheard. My work, my body, and my spirit are offerings, testaments to liberation, resilience, and the indomitable will of those who came before me. It is for all those whose lives have culminated in the creation of our present realities. I am a personification of liberation.
Amazing, beautiful. Thank you so much, my dear sister. That is beautiful. That was beautiful. Sister Lena, final words, concluding remarks from you.
Well, the youth, and when I say youth, I'm also referring to Jaikel, and I'm also Jenkel, and I'm also referring to Relicia, and thanking you for being here today. So you are central to Garifuna Nation also as persons, as you are, and the youth in general, right? We are custodians of our past, and we are the ones to have a vision for the future. So as we reconnect our roots, as we work with all of our strategies, right, to reconnect our roots, we believe that we're ensuring that the Garifuna people remain empowered, they remain visible, connected, and that they will also have their voices be heard. So we declare today that the Garifuna people, they will continue to share who they are through their customs, culture, through their history. And that way together we're going to be reclaiming what belongs to us at the same time that we are preserving our essence and expanding Garifuna identity. Because there are many people who have a percentage of Garifuna in them, but as long as they know who they are, then we declare that we're expanding our Garifuna identity, wherever we find ourselves in the globe. So thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. Thank you, Mr. Uruve, for the invitation and the opportunity.
Sister Lina Bande Sereme. Connecting the roots, Garifuna youth, bridging past and future. We hope that each and every one of you out there enjoyed this discussion. I did very, very much. More than I expected. We're online every Sunday, 5 p.m. Central Time. Join us. Tell your friends to tell their friends to join the Garifuna Nation Radio Dumurei podcast weekly show. Thank you, each and every one, those of you out there. Thank you, Sister Lena, Felicia, my brother Jekyll, our President Egbert Ihinio, Bande Sereme. Until next week, have a blessed evening. Abba Isini. One love. Inebese.
Sarawama, Garinagu, Sarawama.